The Nations Championship, folks, is it any good? We've just finished the Southern Hemisphere leg of this competition. What was good about it? There are a few positives I definitely want to highlight about this new competition, giving the organisers some credit, but there are a few bad things that I want to have a bit of a talk to you guys about in this video, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how fair things are and how you think the competition is going forward, and plus what improvements you think they could make as they fine-tune it based on this first year, which is admittedly a bit of an experiment. I want to start with the positive stuff before I have my moan. July is now connected and we're getting more variety. I want to talk about these 2 points because under the old July test structure, we used to have touring teams from the Northern Hemisphere come down south. It was usually a 3-match series, which I liked. But what it did mean is we lacked variety. Like, for example, I want to just take New Zealand because that's my backyard. We would get Ireland or France or England, maybe Wales, maybe less so now with their world rankings sliding and whatnot, but we would get one of the big teams, one of the big Northern Hemisphere teams from the Six Nations come and do a 3-match tour. And it was more or less those 4. Like, we haven't seen Scotland or Italy down here in New Zealand outside of the World Cup in 2011 for a very, very long time. But we just saw Italy come down to Wellington, play a test on New Zealand soil, Italy score first. Like, what an occasion. What a great one for the Italian players. Can you imagine going through your whole test career, playing Tier 1 tests, playing all Six Nations every year and never having toured New Zealand or seen the haka on New Zealand soil kind of thing? Like, that's crazy. So that we get more variety, we will get more matches for different teams played in South Africa and New Zealand and Australia and whatnot, and obviously with Japan and Fiji being added too. So that is a big positive. And also now July is very connected because with those old tours, if England was here in New Zealand and Ireland were off in South Africa, some people might follow. If you're a rugby diehard, you'll follow what's going on with the other competitions, but some people might not care. They only really care about their own team. But now there is actually value in looking at what is happening with the Springboks if you're sitting it from a New Zealand perspective. Did they win? If they lost, is that good for us? Do we want to back all the Southern Hemisphere teams against the Northerners? Or do we actually need someone to knock off the Springboks because that's good for us? That conversation now exists, where it used to be every tour was its own little isolated competition and ultimately not connected with everything else. So in theory, there is more on the line in terms of the other series as well, which should connect with the fans and raise awareness, and you're more interested in watching the other games. Now, admittedly, I did message one of my mates who went to the Ireland game at Eden Park the other day, and I just checked with him, hey, did you know that there's this competition, the Rugby Nations Championship, and it's got points and whatnot? And he just said he's not going to answer me, and then he did reply saying, all I know is the 13 guys that went to the game were on a pub crawl and they won. So maybe not everyone's that fussed about the competition points just yet, but I would like to think as time goes by, it comes ingrained to you that July matches mean points for this greater competition. I think that could be a positive. Fiji and Japan also getting proper Tier 1 games with regularity. That can only be a good thing because for quite some time, Fiji and Japan have been kind of there or thereabouts. They'll pick up Tier 1 scalps every now and again, but getting them regular, like a 3-game July, guaranteed. You're going to like Fiji, you're going to play Wales, you're going to play England, you're going to play Scotland. Japan, you're going to play Ireland, you're going to play France, you're going to play Italy. That's great news for them and can only raise the profile of the game in both countries, raise the interest levels as well. So I think that is also a positive. Are we leaving other teams behind? There's also the Nations Cup for the teams like Georgia and like Tonga and Samoa and Spain and whatnot as well. But for now, Fiji and Japan are in the competition, at least for this initial iteration, and that's a good thing for them. Also, we don't have the dead rubbers factor. The tours, I'll get to the tours in a second with the negative stuff too, because I do miss part of the tours. We're not going to have any dead rubbers because every game is meaningful, even if you're playing a team which is winless. You still want to take points off them for that overall log, like I mentioned, July being connected. So if it's a 3-match tour and the home team wins the first 2, then the third match is a dead rubber, there's less interest in it. You still can't match the edge of your seat nature of a third match decider. That's a big miss, but there are certainly no dead rubbers because every game is going to mean something. And also, maybe just from a practical standpoint, there's a single broadcaster. I'm pretty sure most of the countries, like whether you're in the UK or South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, I'm pretty sure your broadcaster got the rights to all the games. Like, under the old arrangements, certainly me as a Kiwi here, our broadcaster would buy the rights to the Sanzar games. So I'd get to see the Argentinians, the Aussies, the South Africans, and the New Zealanders. But like when France went to Japan a few years ago, that wasn't being shown in New Zealand. The broadcaster just didn't buy the rights. So at least from a practical standpoint of watching the competition, everything's under that one broadcast umbrella, and I'm fairly certain it is the same with all of the other broadcasters around the world. I don't think anybody only bought partial rights to the competition. I think they're pretty much all games across the board. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is it. At least in New Zealand here, it is all under the one broadcaster umbrella. So that's what I am enjoying about this competition so far. What do I think has been a bit of a struggle? Well, the travel, I don't see an easy solution for that one, but the travel is obviously a big issue. The Southern Hemisphere teams, unlike the Six Nations teams, are spread out, and they even include a Northern Hemisphere team in Japan in various different areas of the globe. So the touring teams, the Northern Hemisphere teams coming south, are going to have horrendous travel schedules. I don't know that there's an easy solution to that. You could do a kind of hub city, which hosts a bunch of games one weekend, so everyone only travels to one spot, but then you miss out on home games. Like, I can't imagine New Zealand Rugby going, yeah, we're not going to host any matches in July because we're going to go play our 3 games in Cape Town or something. Or would they want to host a Super Nations Championship weekend, which only includes one All Blacks game? It might be a hard sell. I'm not sure. But at the moment, the Northern Hemisphere teams are going to have to travel, and that's going to affect performance. That is just currently a fact. And unless you can spread the competition out over more time, I don't know how you fix that. I do feel like they could at least not have all the games played on a bloody Saturday. They line up all 6 games in a row, at some points overlapping. I guess the assumption is the host union schedules that a game at a time which is best for them. But I feel like you can have one game on a Friday, a few games on a Saturday, one game on a Sunday. Spread it out a little bit. Don't give us a marathon of games to watch, or potentially if you know a team has a long haul flight coming up, schedule them on a Friday and schedule their next week's game, like the 3rd round, on a Sunday. That way they get a bit of extra time to overcome the jet lag. I feel like the fixtures could have been tweaked a little bit instead of just having every game played on a Saturday, back to back, and sometimes overlapping. Maybe that could have helped with the travel. I don't know. Fiji and Japan obviously get pretty well shafted with this competition because they're only invitational teams to the Nations Championship. They're not members of the Nations Championship. It's only the Rugby Championship, and 6 Nations teams are here. So it feels like a bit of a case of, you guys are lucky to be here. Like, this is the big kids, this is the adults table. You guys have been at the kids table. We're inviting you up, but like, you need to have some leftovers. You don't get to sit in that chair. You just get what you're kind of given. You can look at it either way as, oh, these guys should be happy to be here. Fiji, you don't get any home games. They made this requirement that you need a 25,000 seater stadium, which Fiji doesn't have. So they can't host any games in Fiji. So they play all their games in the UK. Fiji gets to keep the gate revenues. So that's a bolstering for Fiji. Some people would say, wow, lucky you get to keep all that money. But come on, if you've seen games being played in Fiji, you'll know you're missing out on something pretty massive. And they scheduled the games for bloody 1 o'clock in the morning in Fiji, all 3 of them, local Fiji time. So Fiji got a bit of a short end of the stick. But again, what are they supposed to do? Say no? They're in a weak position to negotiate, so they kind of have to take what they're given, which sucks. Likewise, Japan. Japan had to play their middle game in Newcastle. They didn't get 3 home games, they got 2, which was to accommodate Ireland. Because otherwise Ireland, because Italy, France, and Ireland all had this New Zealand, Australia, Japan leg of the competition, whoever got Japan in the middle was going to have horrendous flights, no matter what. The Italians ended up with a pretty crap flight as well because they had to go from New Zealand to Perth, which is like 7 hours as well instead of 3. But Ireland are the ones who got the raw end of the stick by getting Japan in the middle. But instead of that burden being placed on Ireland for the extra travel, it's just passed on to Japan. Because you're lucky to be here, right? So Japan kind of get the short end of the stick there as well. But again, you're lucky to be here. What are you going to do? Say no? We'll find someone else who will say yes, I suppose, is the logic here. So that kind of sucks for Japan. Like, they said Fiji you need a 25,000-seater stadium, but at Newcastle they only had 11,000 fans in attendance because it's two neutral teams playing in Australia. So both those teams, I feel like, kind of got the shaft. But they're in weak negotiating positions. Also, I should say, they don't get a proper cut of the broadcast revenue either. They get like a participation fee. The Six Nations and Rugby Championship teams get a pooled cut of the broadcast revenue, whereas Fiji and Japan just get a cut, not a cut, just a participation fee. So they kind of get shafted a few different ways. They're by no means full members of this competition. And also, you got to say that the schedule is always going to be unfair with the way the travel is going to work out. Like I said, whoever got the Japan leg for this side of the world was going to have a tough time of it. But there's definitely different levels of fairness with the travel. Like, for example, Fiji has no home games. That's not ideal. Japan having to play a game in Newcastle and having the extra travel put on them. That's not ideal. France and Italy did have to do this leg of the tour fully away. From Italy to Japan to Wellington and then all the way to Perth. Every game away from home. France also, they based themselves in Australia, but every game away from home. Fabien Galtier also mentioned about the kind of fairness of the schedule as well. Ireland got the one concession by not having to move from Australia. And although England, Scotland and Wales all had a lot of air miles to rack up, they all got at least one home game by playing Fiji away in the UK. So, yeah, if you're Fiji, Japan, France or Italy, you can probably feel like the schedule wasn't the fairest to you. The other teams at least all got one kind of concession. And obviously New Zealand, Argentina, Australia, as the host unions, just kind of played games at home. So nothing really doing there. Also, I will say that the tour factor is gone, which I'm going to miss a bit. Again, from a New Zealand perspective, the Irish came here a few years ago under Andy Farrell, lost the first game pretty handily at Eden Park, went on to win the tour by winning the next two games. That was fantastic. Like, obviously not from a New Zealand perspective, but what a tour, what a storyline. Made for a third match decider. It was an absolutely cracking series. Now, like, they just lost at Eden Park. Similar kind of result, wasn't it? Like, they don't get a second chance. You don't get, like, the two coaches trying to work each other out over the course of 3 games. I will miss that. Because the first game is it's more like a cup knockout, right? And I guess that's the deal. Rather than a proper series where you get to see who's the best over 3. But anyway, those are the things that were on the top of my head. If there are other things, do by all means let us know. Do you think Fiji and Japan are being hard done by? Or do you think, man, just enjoy playing against the big boys week in and week out and the benefits that come with that? Or do you think they should be treated a bit more fairly? It's going to be hard if you do host games in Fiji, because if you have Fiji, Australia and New Zealand as one leg of the tour, that travel is actually quite reasonable. But then trying to fit in Japan, South Africa and Argentina would be awful. I don't know how you would do that. It would be almost impossible. Someone is going to have to make a concession somewhere. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. As Eddie Jones said, someone's going to have to suck it up. Probably going to be Japan and Fiji. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Take care. Subscribe if you want some more rugby chat. I'll be happy to talk with you all and read what you guys have got to say. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.